Welcome to your new favorite educational podcast, Keeping Up with Miss Kayla. I'm your host, Kayla Snyder, former social worker turned school wellness coordinator to future classroom teacher superstar. Each week I pick an educational article and summarize it for you, my fellow educators. This week we're going to talk about something that most effective teachers are familiar with, our beloved anchor charts. For those of you who are unfamiliar with what an anchor chart is, let me break it down for you. According to our friends at Scholastic, an anchor chart is a tool used largely to support instruction and move students towards achieving success with lessons taught in their classroom. They're also used as a classroom management tool for students to self-monitor their behavior by gently reminding them of expectations and routines. Picture a big white sheet of paper hung in your classroom with tips, tricks, and key points to help your students grasp a concept or learn a skill. Now that you have the basic idea of what an anchor chart is, let's dive into an article by Jennifer R. Brown. The article was called Hook and Hold and was published in August 2014 in the journal Teaching Children Mathematics, Volume 21. Brown starts the article with establishing what she thinks anchor charts are good for. She lists their use as follows. 1. They create excitement for learning. 2. They establish real-life connections. And 3. They can be used as a reference during work time. Now, I definitely agree with Brown in the last one. Having anchor charts around the room serve as a great reminder for students on the steps they need to take in order to solve the problem or to perform the skill. Brown then takes us into the when and why of anchor charts. According to Brown, anchor charts can be created during the initial phase of the lesson or during the conclusion. They both have obvious different purposes, and we're going to explore them today on this podcast. Anchor charts at the beginning of a lesson help build student excitement and build on the previously learned skills. This is a time to make those connections with students on the things that they already know and how the previous knowledge is going to be built upon today. Anchor charts at the end of the lesson may include student quotes or highlight specific concepts or strategies. Anchor charts help establish 3 of the main characteristics of math lessons: belonging, competence, and meaningfulness. As an educator, these things are important for me to adhere to in everything I do with my students, not just math. Very quickly, I'm going to go over the key parts of an anchor chart and their purposes. We will revisit most of these in a little bit, but I just want to kind of give you guys a breakdown. The title and picture, those are used to focus students on the topic and provide a quick reference for later. The story introduction activates students' background knowledge. The essential question begins to set up the student task. What are we trying to figure out today? What are we trying to solve? The simple drawings provide a visual representation that is a really good source for our visual learners. The key ideas establish the learning target. This is what we're moving towards today. When we underline the new vocabulary on the anchor charts, this establishes the new terms to be used in the lesson. When we label everything, we feature examples. When we feature non-examples, that helps students construct a working definition of the new terms. Show them what it is, show them what it isn't. Color coding your anchor charts helps students see different parts of the story during the lesson. And the biggest thing is organization. This helps students follow and locate the information. Let's dive into how to effectively use an anchor chart in a 3-part lesson. Our 3-part lessons in math begin with a launch into the task, transitions to work time, and then ends with a summary discussion portion of the lesson. So what are some of the most important purposes of the lesson launch? According to Brown, they are activating your child's thinking, presenting needing vocabulary, and establishing motivation. The launch has to be engaging with anchor charts, just as it has to be with any other lesson. If students are not interested, they are not going to be learning at their highest ability. During this launch part of the lesson, the teacher will begin with an anchor chart with 1, a title, 2, an essential question or key idea. Here's what we're working towards today, is essentially what you're saying right here. To be effective, the anchor chart must also include the new vocabulary words and the examples. You don't always have to include non-examples, but if you're going to, this is the time you would include your non-examples as well. It's also smart to include pictures or diagrams at this stage. It's important to note these charts need to be easy to read, organized, and colorful. Sometimes when it comes to anchor charts, less really is more. Creating an anchor chart during this phase should take about 5 to 10 minutes. It also requires teachers to multitask, writing on the board all while discussing with your students. You want your students as involved in this process with anchor charts as you possibly can. Next, it's time to dig into the work and discover a path to solve the problem. During this time, the teacher must monitor the room and look for interesting solutions as well as misconceptions. What are my students grasping? What are my students not grasping? Brown also notes that while you're monitoring, be considering how to feature student success when you return back to your anchor chart in the conclusion. Record some quotes from students while they're exploring solutions because you'll want to come back to these. The last part of the three-part lesson usually focuses on a summary discussion in the whole group setting. This is a time to let students share their hard work. Brown notes that as part of the lesson, this part of the lesson is oftentimes dropped because of time. But she does stress to us that without meaningful math discussion, many great ideas won't stick. This is something we've all done. We run short on time, tell our students to wrap it up, pack it up, get in line, let's head out for the day. But it's important to make sure that we have time to wrap up this lesson, complete our anchor chart, and discuss with our kiddos. So make the time to wrap it up, complete your anchor chart, and have a summarized discussion. Now some of you may be thinking, how can I incorporate anchor charts into my lesson planning? But lucky for us, Brown posed that question too. Brown gave us a reminder to jot down notes and think about what we want to focus on with our anchor chart. We should never go to the board in front of our students and not have a plan in place. If an anchor chart is disorganized or messy, it may end up doing more harm than good. Here are some tips she gives us from her personal toolbox. 1. Make a rough sketch on a sticky note and include the title and picture. This is genius and so easy for us all to do. We all have sticky notes all over our desks. Just grab one, put a summary of what you're going to put on the board, and have it with you ready to go. Think about right now, do I need graphs? Do I need pictures? Do I need charts? Make sure you're ready with that stuff. And number 3, Brown just says, you will get better with time. Your first couple anchor charts are probably not going to be your best. I also took note that some of the example charts in the article have pre-drawn or pre-glued pictures to save time. So that's a tip I'm definitely going to be taking away from this article. I don't consider myself a good artist, even when it comes to stick figures or a little picture of fruit or vegetables. So I would much rather print something in color, have it glued to my anchor chart before we even start. There are a few different types of anchor charts that Brown discusses in the article. First, anchor charts that connect math concepts to other things. Brown often connects stories or books in their literacy to math. She may use the storyline or examples to help make the connection, whether it be in terms of adding, greater than, less than, etc. The next type of anchor chart has the purpose of storytelling. These are used to capture student interest and create a desire to learn more. They don't have to be long or complicated to get the job done. Brown suggests we create stories that involve our own lives. We all know that most of our students think we live at school, so it'd be interesting to them to hear a little bit about our lives. Another type of anchor chart we can use is in the form of summarizing. These anchor charts help solidify learning, build student confidence, and promote a sense of knowledge with the math concept. In conclusion of the article, Brown reminds us that the possibilities are literally limitless when it comes to anchor charts. There are no rules to anchor charts. There is no master plan we have to follow. You can be as elaborate and creative or simple as you want to be in your classroom. When done correctly, anchor charts help students learn to connect the math concepts they're learning now to larger math concepts. They serve as a permanent record of learning and a future reference for students. Brown encourages new to anchor chart teachers to not be afraid. And don't look at anchor charts as just one more thing to do. With time and practice, They become easier and less time consuming, and you can use them effectively as a tool in your classroom. Wow. So what do you guys think? How awesome is it to hear the benefits and breakdowns of anchor charts from a veteran teacher? I highly suggest that you guys go find this article so you can see the awesome examples that are pictured. The key things that I'm taking away from this article review are to be organized, don't be nervous, and to have fun. Here's the great thing about anchor charts is your students don't know how to do them either. So if you're new to anchor charts, they're not going to know if you're doing it wrong. I would love to hear about some of your experiences with anchor charts compared to mine and to this week's author, Jennifer R. Brown. That's all I have this week on Keeping Up with Miss Kayla. Tune in next week to talk with me about number lines and integers. See you later!